All right. All right. Are we all ready?
We all,
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for having me today, and always glad to get an opportunity to talk about my favorite subject and all things AAM. So this year has been significant for the AAM industry. All around the globe, we're seeing positive momentum and a hyper focus on safely bringing this technology to market. I think in the US, the new administration's focus on this part of the industry and really putting pen to paper to keep position as a leader is evident through efforts like the new executive order, which is finding ways to harness the benefits of these technologies. So, if you aren't familiar, in June of this year, the administration issued an executive order titled Unleashing American Drone Dominance. And as part of that, it seeks to accelerate drone and eVTOL commercialization and integration into the NAS to solidify US leadership in global aerospace innovation. So basically, this establishes an eVTOL pilot program, which could enable early operations in the US. So really safe early integration of these technologies will give us that real world data at a higher pace operational tempo, that will help inform on the true long-term benefits for operators. As recently as last week, the FAA, has leveraged its experience with recent powered lift applications to develop criteria for a advisory circular. The draft was published in June of last year, and just last week, the FAA did release the final advisory circular, for the type certification of powered lift. So this establishes a more efficient path in designating the type certification basis for certain powered lift projects, and ultimately it does create a safe, repeatable process to normalize certification of these aircraft. So when you look at this and why this is, a huge win, historically applicants have had to have their certification basis published to the Federal Register for public comment, since this was a rulemaking activity. And that involves, a 30-day, comment window, followed by FAA review and adjudication, before they can finally publish that final rule. So historically speaking, this process has taken roughly 12 to 18 months, which is a significant time in a type certification project. So the advisory circular basically negates the need for that criteria to be announced for each project in the Federal Register for comment if the applicant can comply directly. So that significantly streamlines and shortens the process for certification. This was a significant win for the FAA and for industry when you look at the red tape that it removes and how it's very much in line with the administration's priorities for deregulation, preventing the need for that special rulemaking every time. So, just a few recent kind of successes and positive momentum that we're seeing here in the United States. So, I will shift here into sharing my screen. I have a lot I want to talk about and show you. So we'll go to this, and then I do have a video as well here shortly on. So do you see a screen that says Beta Technologies? All right, great. I'm not great with introductions. I just move straight into the good stuff. But Kristen Costello, I lead regulatory affairs for Beta Technologies. Beta Technologies is an electric aerospace company based in Burlington, Vermont, and we're developing solutions to make aviation safer, cleaner, and more cost-effective. Developing next-generation aircraft and infrastructure um, to enable our customers to do air cargo, logistics, medical transport, and passenger missions. So we're designing and producing an electric transportation system. So our all-electric aircraft, a network of electric chargers, and training programs for future pilots and maintainers. This is actually a picture of our production floor. So Beta's taking a blended approach to production. So we're vertically integrating new and enabling technologies and partnering with top aerospace suppliers on systems and structures. So we've begun rolling aircraft off the production line as of last year, and things are only ramping up from there, with another aircraft coming off the line this very week. So the team has worked to develop custom design processes and tools to build novel systems and structures, ultimately maximizing efficiency. So this is a Leah. We have two all-electric aircraft variants, an eVTOL as well as an eCTOL, a conventional takeoff and landing aircraft. And both are designed to fulfill our missions for the customers. So they're optimized for payload and range to enable short haul and regional operations with zero emissions and lowered operating costs. So you can see here, these are our cargo variants, but we also have passenger variants that we will be certifying in the future. We are cargo first as our initial TC projects on both aircraft. The beta certification pathway is a progressive stepwise approach. So basically, we have concurrent and overlapping type certification projects in progress with the FAA right now. So as you can see, the first there on the left, the Hartzell 5-blade propeller. So Hartzell has just actually completed this certification project in partnership. We helped, this was developed for the Beta aircraft, this propeller, and the testing was done on Beta aircraft and engines and whatnot. So really proud of that milestone that just happened and actually was just announced last week. So this was the first propeller certified for an AAM aircraft. We also have the H500A electric engine. So this is being certified under Part 33 with the use of special conditions, which then ports into our CTOL. So the CTOL is being certified under Part 23 with no special conditions. And then ultimately onto our VTOL, which is a special class project under 2117 Bravo. So you can see here, we've kind of developed this process and how we're doing things to accelerate how we're approaching certification. And the reason for this is because the reuse increases the efficiency. So kind of a streamlined path for both us and the regulator. Basically, uh, taking this on, allowing these to be reapplied to each project, if that makes sense. So now I'm actually going to transition to a video of flying because that's a lot more fun than looking at my slides while I talk about some of our recent things that we've been doing here. So this has been a big year for Beta in terms of flying. We've conducted 5 years of piloted flights on full-scale aircraft. We flew the first crewed full-scale transition flight. And again, last year we had our first production intent eCTOL come off the production line in Vermont. We've operated in some of the busiest airspace in the US, including the Hudson Corridor in New York, which was a first for an electric aircraft. We've completed 4 military exercises with 100% availability rate, performing simulated casualty evacuations and asset repositioning. And we've flown through over 90 plus airports in the US and Canada, as well as international flying now in Europe. So quite a bit that we've done to date. But then this year we kind of stepped it up and went a little harder. So we did what was called the 916 Lima Foxtrot Roadshow across the US, where we took our production intent CX-300 airplane and visited over 80 airports just in that trip alone, flying over 7,000 nautical miles. So this was a coast-to-coast journey of the US, flying this aircraft, covering 26 states from New York to California and then back to Vermont. We charged on our own infrastructure where we were able to, utilizing some of the nearly 50 chargers that we do have online and operational in the US. We did military exercises and flew into Class Bravo airports, IFR, flew past the Hollywood sign in Los Angeles, and did a lot of FAA familiarization flights, talking to over 145 people from the agency. So the biggest benefit here was that we were able to reach numerous stakeholders and a wide, diverse audience to basically demonstrate the benefits of electric aviation. One of our main objectives at Beta is unlocking rural access. So certifying that cargo variant first, we want to cut down the time it takes for rural areas to get packages and other precious cargo, as well as provide improvements to medical logistics hurdles. So again, our electric fleet is cost effective with a lower operating cost than traditional combustion engine aircraft. So not only is the cost of energy much lower as compared to Jet A fuel, but the maintenance costs are lower and the needs are less frequent. So that drives down your operating costs and ultimately improves those costs seen by the customer. We did demonstrations in Utah, where we basically took the aircraft out, completed 6 flight routes, demonstrating the aircraft's ability to quietly, efficiently, and cost effectively connect major locales across the state. Hosted several events for outreach, and we completed a loading exercise with one of our customers at Salt Lake City International Airport. We then went and did a Port Authority demo, making history, taking the first ever passenger configuration AAM aircraft into JFK in New York, with a great reception by the city and the airport. So that actually took us into Europe. We then took another aircraft and went over and started what we called the European Grand Tour. The reason that we did this initially was that we have an aircraft that is being delivered to Norway to basically execute on a regulatory sandbox exercise in partnership with Bristow, Avinor, and the CAA there. So as we transition towards that, we started in Ireland, and we're able to basically show some benefits to the country there, starting in Shannon Airport, flying across the country to Dublin. And at some point in this video, you'll see some of my favorite footage of us flying against the cliffs there. We crossed into UK and did some stops along the way. And then from there, we crossed the English Channel to France en route to Paris, where we flew in the Paris Air Show to showcase advanced air mobility. So Beta has always had a rule that we would not show up at an air show unless we fly. We just completed flying at Oshkosh as well. And so that's what we did. We worked with the local DGAC in France and the air show organizers and got that approval. And like I said, following a few more customer flights going through Germany and Denmark, our journey will ultimately end with Norway for the remainder of 2025 here shortly. So what's next? Our approach has been demonstrated through the progress we've made in the National Airspace System with our fleet. We're going to be doing the sandbox operation in Norway, and then we also are sending an aircraft to New Zealand and conducting a similar demonstration series this year in partnership with Air New Zealand. So this gives, again, all of these parties, us as the manufacturer, our partners, and the regulators, real-world data on the implementation of electric aviation in a local environment. So there's a large appetite for these Pathfinder operations globally, and we're just excited to be able to demonstrate the benefits of electric aviation. So I can stop there. And I think that kind of sums up what I wanted to talk about. So let me know. Are we doing Q&A, or how do we want to I guess do this, Gary?
Kristen, I think, yeah, let's invite a few questions. But firstly, I just want to congratulate you, because that must be the first time an electric aircraft has actually taken off and landed on dirt in your video there, which is significant given that in Africa, particularly Australia, for humanitarian EMS missions, etc., that really stands out for your aircraft and shows just how much use it's going to be in the developing world and also in developed countries.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point. And I think, just for everybody's, awareness, that is, again, one of our use cases that's near and dear to our heart, like I said, is connecting areas that don't have the same access points, and really making sure that advanced air mobility is not just used for urban environments. There is definitely a use case there, and we're excited by that as well. But I think that the true benefits of this technology is going to be seen through connecting those areas of the world.
Agreed. Questions, anybody? Okay, sorry. Question from Dean Rudolph from the Institute. Henry, can you just flash that again?
I'm sorry, Gary. I heard you call my name. Do you need something?
Yeah, no, just the question from Dean Rudolph.
Absolutely. Let me
Yeah.
pull that
Okay,
up.
wait. Yeah. I think if you can
Okay.
just flash them up for
Yes, I
everybody.
see it.
Yeah.
The question Dean Rudolph has is, does the newly released advisory circular arrive too late to streamline your certification activities for your VTOL entrance?
That's a great question. And the answer is no. We're actually very excited about the advisory circular, and we do intend to fully use that. So I think that the differences, if you go in and look, and I know that there's a few reporters that have started now covering this, and it's exciting to kind of hear the differences. So definitely pay attention and see what's coming out. But I would say that what we see in the differences between the draft advisory circular from a year ago versus the advisory circular that was published is that, when the draft came out, we said, hey, this was a great starting point. It's very reflective of the G1s that we've seen, plus some additional requirements that maybe weren't done in those previous G1s. But there was definitely some work to be done. There was still improvements that needed to be made to be sure that that advisory circular covered the breadth of architectures that are, in process, as well as, just some of the rules that needed to be overhauled or rewritten to be a little bit more performance based. And they met the requirements, or they met the asks that industry made. And what we have with that final AC, we feel as industry is significant. And I think it's going to really unlock these aircraft in a meaningful way. So, getting to see the rewrite with the rules that's more performance based, giving OEMs more freedom to design the aircraft in a way that makes sense for the intended operations of the aircraft was definitely positive. And yes, I think Beta and a lot of other applicants are intending to utilize that. So great question. Thank you.
Okay. Another question with regard to the VTOL is what's your sort of target at the moment, if we may ask, for type certification of the eVTOL version, and have you considered a hybrid version?
So in terms of, we always say that our certification timelines, everything, it's projections based on where we're at today and what we're doing there. And so what we are basically doing right now and where we're scoping in, um, apologies, 1 second, getting a lot of, I should have silenced my devices here. What we're doing as we're looking at this is we're kind of taking this in a step-by-step approach. So as I said, we're very excited about the advisory circular that's come out and what that's going to do. And I think if you heard during my remarks, the ability to close our G1 without having to go through the special rulemaking progress will shave about 12 to 18 months off of our certification journey just by that alone. And so I would not be so bold as to place down a specific date. We kind of have a range of saying, hey, this is when we're targeting. But what I'm just really excited by today is the fact that we've had a major win in what we're going to be able to accomplish with the closure of our G1.
Thank you.
And I do have time for, I think, one more. I'm so sorry. I do have
One more question. Yeah. Well, I believe it's quite a good question from Yuri. Are you planning to develop partnerships with existing or new MROs? And will you be certifying those organizations?
That's a great question. I don't think that I have the scope to answer with today. But yeah, that's great. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you very much, Kristen. It was really informative, and I think everybody enjoyed your presentation. And we look forward to seeing you again in the future at one of our forums.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everybody who joined. If you want to connect, you can find me on LinkedIn, and happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Kaisuke